All right, welcome back. Here we are. Somewhere over western Montana. We are inbound to Missoula now. In about 2 hours since we signed off of part 1. We're headed towards the Gyros waypoint. 74 miles from the Gyros waypoint. ETA to Missoula is about 20-ish minutes. Been a smooth, uneventful flight. Beautiful country that we're flying over. I mean, really, something else to see. Never been to Montana. But I need to. Doing a little research on our destination, Missoula International Airport it's called, which is humorous because apparently it has no international destinations. It's a case of bragging, I guess. We've been asked or instructed to descend to 19,000 feet. We are at 28,000 feet. Descending at 1,700 feet per minute. Airspeed, true airspeed is 343 knots. Ground speed is 345 knots. It'd be different if winds aloft were working, but it's not. Hopefully it will soon. These descents, ATC guided descents, based on the IFR flight plan that you file, they're always interesting, a little exciting. I have not yet been vectored into any mountains, but when you're flying into a airport like Missoula, well, let me put it this way, I'm glad the weather's clear today. I was checking out the approach to runway 12, and we'll bring up the VFR map here and take a look. Right now, that's us. Gyros is the waypoint I said we're headed towards. These are just artificial waypoints that the GS, or the G1000, puts in to manage a nice smooth turn to get us over to Jellic. Jellic is the approach waypoint for Missoula runway 12, where we're landing. And I looked at, and you can actually see it, I have the ISO line activated, so you can actually see what we're going to do is fly down this valley where there is not any particular terrain hazards. Famous last words, right? I was looking at the approach plate, and if you look, stand by.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet. Expect ILS Zulu runway 12 approach via Mike Sierra Oscar 243 radial 250 DMER. Cleared to Mike Sierra Oscar.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet. Expect ILS Zulu runway 12 approach via Mike Sierra Oscar 243 radial 250 DMER. Cleared to Mike Sierra Oscar Day or Tree Whiskey Bravo.
So anyway, you heard we got cleared. We're instructed to descend down to 11,000. Interesting reference there to the radial that we're going to be flying inbound. There's a VOR at MSO at Missoula, so that's what the reference to the radial is. Radial being 360 degrees. Got a little chop there. 360 degrees on that circle, you tune in the radio and you can fly a radial we're not going to do that because we're using GPS pre-planned approach path. But my hunch is that it matches with what we were just told. Now you could technically go over to the MFD, click on procedure, I presume, and handle the approach this way. But I've tried this and it is a hot mess. So I'm not going to. I'm just going to stick with what we've got here. It's got us on 12 Zulu. I think I actually was under the impression we're at 12 Yankee. I think, let me just confirm this. I brought up the approach plate for 12 Yankee, but let me just confirm. I'm looking at my phone right now on the 4Flight app. KMSO approach plate for Zulu, runway 12, RNAV Zulu. Okay, let's see, plate added to binder. Approach course is 117. This is interesting. Well, I'll take the ILS. Yankee. Is there no ILS Zulu? Let's check it one last thing. There is an ILS Zulu. Hold on. I got ILS Yankee. That was my impression, but I just want to confirm that ILS Zulu. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same frequency, 109.3. I'm looking at the approach plate right now. Okay, so we're good in there. Anyway, you see on this VFR map, the nature of the approach is such that my expectation is we're going to be headed straight towards a gigantic wall of mountains right before we turn right, sharp right, and start the final approach. So that could be a little hair-raising. But I'm glad that we're in good weather, because this otherwise might be a little flying. We're at transition altitude, which means we need to find out our nearest altimeter. 29.908. Currently estimating about 14 minutes. Descending out of 17,000 down to 11,000. I may be a little bit paranoid, but these mountains look awfully tall and big.
Air Tree Whiskey Bravo, contact Salt Lake Center on 132.4.
132.4 Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo.
So I have noticed
Salt Lake Center Dare November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey
on
Bravo
these ATC guided approaches, it seems like they
11,000 feet.
vector you down
Dare
faster than you need to
Bravo,
be.
Salt Lake Center, continue to Mike Sierra Oscar as planned. Altimeter 29.908.
So I don't know if that makes sense, but what I mean by that is that you get these descent instructions, and they want you down lower than it seems like you need to be, which you wouldn't care about unless there's a gigantic mountain range like the Rocky Mountains between you and your destination. Then, being ordered to descend more quickly than necessary might be a little anxiety-inducing. Down at 14.8 now for 11. These mountains are getting closer and closer. You see, it is actually, I'm actually seeing specific individual trees populating along this ridge line. It is replicating turbulence since we're over these mountains, which you'd expect, but it's cool to see nevertheless. Some really beautiful peaks out there. Ground speed's on 280 knots with 300 miles an hour. At that speed, meeting a mountain, well, it'd be a short introduction, let's put it that way. 21 nautical miles to our next waypoint, Gyros. After Gyros is Jeleg. Jeleg is 16 nautical miles from the airport and has a altitude on the approach plate of 8,600. That's the altitude you need to be at when you cross Jeleg. At 16 miles from the airport, that's a long ass approach.
Air Tree Whiskey Bravo, contact Salt Lake Center on 119.75.
Going to 119.75 Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo.
Shallow out our
Lake
descent
Center,
to
Dare
1,000
November,
feet per
Tree
minute.
43 Whiskey Bravo is at 11,800 feet, descending 11,000 feet.
Air November, Tree 43 Whiskey Bravo, Salt Lake Center, continue to Mike Sierra Oscar as planned. Altimeter 29.908.
I like hearing that interference. That's actually a feature you can enable in the sim. The setting that you would have for signal degradation from distance, which I think is a neat feature. Beautiful mountain range down here.
Air Tree Whiskey Bravo, contact Salt Lake Center on 133.4.
133.4 Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo. Salt Lake Center, Dare November Tree 43 Whiskey Bravo, 11,000 feet.
Air November, Tree 43 Whiskey Bravo, Salt Lake Center, continue to Mike Sierra Oscar as planned. Altimeter 29.908.
Altimeter staying steady, 29.908. Airspeed doing about 250 knots. True. KIAS at 210. Almost. I just can't get over the way these peaks are. Look at the trees. I mean, every single one of those trees is individually depicted. Holy mackerel. .7 miles to Gyros right now. Yeah, I mean, you really have to trust your instruments and air traffic control and your flight prep. Ah, we're bouncing around up here. Holy smokes, this is like a tennis ball in a washing machine. Yeah, you can imagine doing this in pitch black. Ooh, mountaintop lake right there. Sweet.
Air Tree Whiskey Bravo, climb and maintain 12,000 feet.
Oh, see these dipshits. They're gonna tell me to climb now.
Climb and maintain 12,000
God
feet. Dare
damn
Tree
it.
Whiskey Bravo.
See, that's irritating. It's like, dude, don't take me down to 11,000 and then tell me to come back up to 12. I've only seen this happen in mountainous areas, so I don't know. Maybe the AI shits itself when it sees that you're headed towards some mountaintop and it just defaults to telling you to climb before telling you to descend again. I actually think we're not at risk at 11,000 feet. I should know the MDA, the minimum descent altitude for this area. I don't. Sorry, I forgot. But they want us at 12, so we'll go to 12. Obviously, anytime you initiate a climb, man, we are really getting some chop. Anytime you initiate a climb, you're going to lose airspeed, so. Increase the throttle a little bit. And we are really bouncing around. This is probably the most turbulence I've seen. We're making our left turn now at Gyros. I just hope they don't forget about us. This has happened before too. I think when I was on final in Newport News, Virginia, they just stopped talking to me. Again, more AI issues. Look at the trees. Wow. A lot of trails or roads around here. Trails, I'm guessing. Beautiful. Man, I really do need to go to Montana. So we're on these this little curve here before we start our right turn. Remember, at Jeleg, J-E-L-E-G, can't zoom in anymore. At Jeleg, we need to be at 8,600. So we're at 12 now.
Whiskey Bravo descend and maintain 11,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet, Dare, Tree Whiskey Bravo.
Okay, back to 11. It's okay. You know, I have to remind myself, oh, there's the moon. In its correct phase, I might add. I have to remind myself on occasion that this is an AI. You know what I mean? This is a computer doing this. And it's pretty, despite its errors occasionally, it's still pretty freaking amazing. I think about, I got into this game and the notion of having ATC vector me down would be unthinkable. Even with FSX, I mean, it was not like this. So here we are. We're in our descent now down to 11,000. And remember, here we are right now. Okay. This is us. At 11,000, we need to be at 8,600 right here at Jeleg. So let's see if that happens. Oh, I forgot one last thing. I did load the correct ILS frequency already, as I recall. So let me reconfirm that though. 113.9. Just want to make sure. No, I stand corrected. 109.3. Let's fix that. 109.3. 10930. Enter and switch. All right. So, holy smokes! I have never seen me bounced around this much. So we have the ILS frequency programmed in now. So once we turn at Romeo 312 towards Jeleg, I will activate that. And then even if ATC ignores us or stops talking to us, we can still shoot the approach. I do feel like we should be descending at this point. About 7 minutes at this point. 7 minutes to our destination. It's out there somewhere. Oh, there it is. I don't know if you can see that white light, a rabbit. That's our runway. Come on, ATC. And I guess they don't want to order me to descend too soon, because if you look at this here, you can see there is some terrain underneath me, and that's confirmed with this. Yeah, I'm flying right over a ridgeline here, so that might partially explain the delay. Okay, we're gonna keep turning right. 2,400 feet above where I need to be. When I get to R312, Romeo 312, it will tell me how many miles and how many minutes I am before I'll get to Jeleg. And from that, I'll be able to compute how fast I need to descend to get to 8,600 feet, keeping in mind we're at 2,400 feet above that altitude right now. So for example, if it says it's 3 minutes between Romeo 312 and Jeleg, then I know I need to descend at 800 feet per minute. It's just basic arithmetic. I don't know why it says 10,800. That happened. Sometimes I notice little things like whoop, stand by.
25 miles northwest of Missoula. Contact Missoula Tower on 118.4 when inbound on the approach.
Tower on 118.4 Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo.
All right,
Missoula Tower,
let's
Dare,
turn right,
November,
fellas.
Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo 25 miles northwest inbound ILS Zulu runway 12 approach.
Dare November, Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo, Missoula Tower. Cleared ILS Zulu runway 12 approach. Altimeter 29.9 wind 107 at 5.
All right.
Cleared ILS Zulu runway 12 approach.
As I
Dare, Tree
predicted,
Whiskey
we're heading
Bravo.
straight towards a wall of mountains. We're clear for the approach, so we will switch over to ILS. Wow. Wow, that is sweet. So yeah, just like I expected, we're going to fly straight down this valley. There we are. There's that mountain range right off to our left. Happy to be avoiding that. There's the runway. Zoom in, you can just see that white flashing light. Now keep in mind, we are 6 miles, 5.6 miles from Jelleg. And remember what I said about the math. What I'm going to do is activate our ILS. Switch off of the FMS as our nav source and switch over to the ILS. Kind of far out. Let's see if it happens. Yep, it's grabbed it. See how this turned green, this CDI turned green? That means it's now on the, see right there, MSO, India Mike Sierra Oscar 109.3. That is the frequency for the runway. We're going to hit approach, and you're going to notice it's going to start a rapid descent because this green diamond is down and low, and that means we're too high. Which we are, which we knew, because remember we need to be at 8,600 feet at Jelleg, and we are at 10,600 feet, so we're coming in high. But it's not going to be an issue because we're descending on for the ILS approach right now, so that autopilot's going to handle this approach and get us down to the appropriate altitude.
Landing gear.
Wants to put down gear, but I'm not quite ready to. You'll notice this diamond will start to very slowly creep up. We are 16.7 nautical miles from runway 12, bearing of 116 degrees. So we got a nice long approach. As I mentioned, we're just crossing over Jelleg now. Should be 8,600 feet. We're at about 94, but that's fine. We're descending quickly, no problem. And Jelleg, as I mentioned, is 16 miles from Missoula, so that's confirmed. We are lined up, as you can see here on the HSI, or rather the CDI, course deviation indicator. Still need to descend more, so now I'm going to put our gear down. That'll create some nice drag. And slowing down is a good thing if you're headed towards the airport too fast. But we're lined up horizontally, just spot on, but we just need to lose a little altitude. Throttle back a little bit more. Now if you notice, this green diamond, as I mentioned, is creeping up. We're descending at 1,550 feet per minute. That's computed by the autopilot. It is determined that that's how fast we need to be descending in order to get on the glide slope. The glide slope representing a 3-degree descent rate. Airspeed slowing nicely now, taking us down. You notice how our descent rate is bottoming out, shallowing out. Now 1,400, it was 1,550 just a minute ago. And this green diamond is creeping up. Eventually it'll be dead center. Let's get our landing lights on. Pop up in the seat a little bit just so we can see what's going on. Keep an eye on our airspeed. Don't let it slow down too much. Beautiful valley here that we're going down. Glide slope indicator continues to creep up very slowly. This is telling us that we are slightly higher than we should be. That might seem counterintuitive because it's low, but basically I always used to interpret that as go down, go down. Cars there on the road. What a game. What a time to be alive in the sim world. Don't need our heater anymore. Outside air temperature is 26, so turn that off. Just have regular old AC. Now our glide slope is perfect right now, spot on. You can see, zoom in as much as I can. Nailed it. It's just gonna. Our descent rate's 1,050. Time to start hitting those flaps. Don't want to do your flaps until you're in this white tape portion. But I have cheated a little bit here and there and done it right as you're about to get into it, and we'll do that now. See the runway? Dead ahead. Lined up. Zoom this in a little bit more. Whoops. Everything looks good. Airspeed, we want it down to about 85, 90. We're at altitude. Airport elevation here is 3255.
3 Whiskey Bravo, cleared to land runway 12. Wind 109er at 5.
Cleared to land runway 12 Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo.
Winds 109er at 5. Bingo, right? Headed right into it. No crosswind today. Or almost no crosswind. Current bearing headings 117. Winds are what do you say, 109? Airspeed 103.
Runway 12.
3 mile final according to ForeFlight. That's consistent. It says 4. Either way, code for you're almost there. Final notch of flaps. That can really impact airspeed, so you want to watch that throttle. As you drop out that second notch of flaps and you're not paying attention, you just fall out of the sky like a rock, stall. Airspeed 500 feet AGL. Airspeed's good. Well, it's still bouncing a little bit. Got a little wind. I'm going to take the aircraft. Autopilot disengaged. According to those poppies, we're a little low. According to the glide slope indicator, we're a little low too. So, come on, don't let that airspeed fall down on me. There we go. There we go. Now, and I see a poppy. We got one white now. So, I don't know how that came in a little bit low. I don't know if we got bounced around by a little wind or what. Now we got 2 whites on the poppy. Good. That's what we want. Watch that airspeed. Sometimes I have to zoom in or zoom out. I take my hand off the controller and get a little off kilter. Airspeed's good now. 85 knots, 86. Got 3 whites, 1 red, so a tiny bit too high, but nothing to worry about. Got a nice long runway. Let trim us a little bit. There you go. 4 whites, now back to 3 whites. Two and 2, that's what you like. 2 whites, 2 reds. Airspeed's good. Throttle back to idle. There we go. Those reversers going. Alright, so now we'll wait for ATC. I learned my lesson yesterday at San Jose, turning off the runway before I knew where the hell I was going, and then having to take a grand tour of the airport. Okay.
Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo exit runway when able.
Got it. Thank you. See, I'm glad I waited. These mountain or higher altitude airports have just the longest runways. Okay. Hang a left.
Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo contact ground on 121.9er.
Stop right here.
121.9er for Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo.
Ground and taxi to parking.
Missoula ground, Dare November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey
While they're
Bravo.
doing that,
request taxi to parking.
flaps.
Dare November Tree 4 Tree Whiskey Bravo taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway Alpha cross runway 26 Charlie.
Zoom in here to get a better
Taxiing
view
to
of
general aviation parking using taxiway Alpha cross runway 26 Charlie Dare Tree Whiskey Bravo.
This is runway 26, so we're gonna like that. All right. Got our landing lights off, flaps are back in. Boy. I mean, I've never been to Missoula, but it looks pretty. I was surprised in researching the airport to learn that it has over 900,000 passengers come into this airport a year, which, you know, via commercial airliners. It's a beautiful part of the country, and I guess that's a big part of it. Ah, here we are crossing the runway. Didn't they tell us we were going to cross 26? That's interesting. It says 25. Look. That's I just found a error. 7-25, 8-26. These runway headings change over time, just from the natural magnetic drift of the Earth. And that's funny. Anyway, nothing to worry about. No planes coming. No. So they got the runway heading correct. They just haven't updated the taxi signs. Interesting. Cross this runway.
Enter runway 0826.
Yeah, that is 0826. They just haven't. The game did not update the taxi signs. Interesting. A little passenger plane there. I'm hoping for liveries soon. I don't know how. I'm not particularly technical when it comes to installing that crap. I don't even know if it's available yet, to be frank, but it'll be fun to see actual airliners there. You gotta dodge the runway lights. They're everywhere in this game. They overdid them. Oh, look at the cars in the parking lot. That's bitchin'. Fueling there. All right. Hope I didn't come in too fast at him. God, he probably shat himself. All right. Parking brake. Don't need these pitot heat. Cutoff. Depressurize. Taxi lights off. Pulse. Nav, strobe. AP trim off. Fuel selector back to manual. And alarms can stop.
Aural warning, okay.
All right. Close the fuel valve. All right, that was a good flight. Uneventful. Safe. Nice approach. Things worked as I expected. And continue to love everything about this game. I'm thinking about heading north to Alaska. Time will tell. Ciao.